dachi, which means what. And also an alternate pronunciation for dachi is also achi without the D. You'll find that when you listen to Hmong and people are speaking a little bit more quickly, people don't really pronounce the D in some cases. And so sometimes you can use the word achi, and you'll get a feel for that as you go. And so asking with the word dachi is just super simple. It's the subject, and then the verb, and then dachi or achi. And answering it is just as simple. You'd say subject, and then the verb, and then the description of what you asked or what the person asked. And so the examples we have for that is go yo Hmong sing dachi, which means what Hmong clan are you? So it's referring to the last name for Hmong people. And so to answer that, like I said over here, gu yo Hmong sing ya, you would use the subject, the verb, and then your explanation or your description. Hmong sing ya. And so that is I am Hmong Yang. And so that's one way to ask a question with dachi. And the next way, next example would be ne sa wadachi. What do you to, because ne means to, want to do? See, we have the verb or the subject, then we have the verb or the verb phrase, and then dachi. And so to answer that, once again, like I said over there, u sa mu no fo. So you'd say subject, verb, and then description, what you want to do. And so the next example would be ngo haidachi, which means what did they say? And ngo is the two-person they. That's why we have that right there. And so it's subject, verb, dachi, and then to answer, ngo haidia. So subject, verb, and then whatever they said. So the next word that we're going to learn is the word lija, and also the word vi, lija. And so lija means how, but when you put vi on the beginning, it means because, how, which ultimately means why. So vi lija means why. How you ask using lija, you say subject, verb, phrase, lija. And then vi lija, you'd use vi lija in the beginning of the sentence. So it's like because how or why, just like in English at the beginning of the sentence. So you'd say vilija plus subject and then the verb at the end. And then answering these, subject, and I forgot to write this up, I'll do that right now. For lija, you'd say subject, verb, and then the description. So pretty much how. And then also for vilija, you'd use the word vi plus description or reason. All right, and so we have a few examples that we put up. And so we have the first one, which is Kolumbe Hulja, which is an extremely common phrase. You'll hear that all the time, you'll ask that a lot. And that means, what is your name? So here's the subject, and then there is an object. So it's subject and object, and then the verb, and then Lija at the end. And to answer that is Kolumbe Huua Mai Paul with a smiley face. So Hmong people always say smiley faces after these kinds of sentences. So Kulumbe huua mai paw, smiley face. And then ne shi paw lija. That literally means how do you two know each other? So here's the subject, here's the verb phrase right here, and then lija. How do you two know each other? And then to answer that, you say unji paw lu che gumbo. Here's the subject, here's the verb, and then here's where they met each other. And this means we met at the school, And so here's one of the things that I said, lita can be used for a different word. It's sort of confusing, but I'll go over that in another video, but I thought we should expose that to you early. And so that word is ulitalo, or that sentence is ulitalo. And that literally means what happened. And so you'll see that lita was used here, but we came out with the question word what. And so I'll go over that in a different video. And also the last sentence is vilija lanumrote. And so we have vilija, which means why, and then the subject, verb, and then where they went, pretty much. And then that means, why did they go to Laos? And so to answer that, all you really need to do is say the at the end of at the beginning of the sentence, and then you just say the reason. All right, so we're gonna go over 3 words now. I didn't write the third one up there because we've already gone over it. But the first one would be the word law. Now there's a lot of different pronunciations for law. There's the normal low tone law, there's the rising tone law, and there's just some other crazy ones too, depending on the tone of the situation. And so law could mean hung, could mean right, could mean like a Canadian A on the end. It could also, it could be like a confirmation in a way. And then there's the word y'all, which means like right, pretty much. And so we'll go over what the difference of those are, because there's a very big difference on the situation when you would use those. Asking pretty much would be the same for all of them. It's the subject, and then the verb, and then law, or y'all at the end of the sentence. To answer this, you can answer it in a lot of different ways. You can answer it using oh, which means like yup, in a way. You can use YOLO. You can use ma to like, use the verb and then say ma right after, or say G and then the main verb after that to say no. So the difference is pretty important. The difference might not come to you at first, but after a little bit of practice, you'll understand the difference and you'll begin to see it. And so first, the word law it's like the least assuming of the 3. And then there's the word boyo, which is like the middle assuming. And then 3 would be y'all, which is very assuming, which means you practically know the answer already. And so the examples we have, so the first one we were using y'all. So 北母那么 y'all, which means let's go eat, yeah. It's like saying like we're going to eat, aren't we? Like, and you guys are going to eat. And to answer that, you can say y'all or mu ma, or normal ma, stuff like that. It doesn't matter. It's pretty much up to you. 你到了, which means you've come, huh? And so that's one way you can say like it's like a confirmation in a way. And then you can say oh, 多嘛. And then the last example would just be 不要, which means really. And you can answer that just saying 要嘛. All right, so now we have some more question words. These are a little bit more complicated than 波 because it's not so much of a direct answer. And so the first word that we're going to go over is 的, which means which. And so when you use 的 in combination with other words, you're asking a question, in essence. And so we're going to go over the most common ones and also go over some other ones, like using 的 with some classifiers in the examples that we wrote down. And so we have 令的, which means which person, literally, which ultimately means who. And so we have 考的, which is which place, which directly translates to where. And so when we're asking these questions, so we'll start with 的. Use 的 after you say an object or person. 令的 is subject plus verb, 令的. And we say verb because there's, you could use a few different verbs, depending on what the situation is. And we also have 考的, subject plus 鸟, because generally that's what you're going to use for a place. Because 鸟 means to be, like in a location or how you feel. Plus the word 考的. How we answer these questions is pretty simple, pretty direct. For 的, you say subject plus the clarification. So you're explaining which kind of thing it is or which person it is. 令的, subject plus 要 plus clarification. There's 考的, which is the subject, 鸟, and then clarification. And so we're going to go over here to the examples that we have. So the first example we have is 内母路车的, which means which church do y'all go to? And so since we are Mormon, we decided to say 北母路车毛蒙. Mamong is the Hmong translation for the word Mormon. The next, let me explain this real quick. So this is the subject, and then we have the verb phrase, and then you see 的, and 的 is describing 路车, so it's which church. So Lu Chao is church, and means which. So which church? And so Bei Mu Lu Chao Mamong. This is the explanation, pretty much. The subject plus explanation, like we said over there. And so the next example we have is Nu Yo Lang Bu. Who is he or she? So we have the subject, we have the verb right here, and then we have Lang Bu, which is who. So we have who is he or she. And to answer that, you would say Nu Yo Bei Du Si Hu. So we have the subject plus the verb and the explanation, in essence. And so we have Yo Bei Du Si Hu. Si Hu is a teacher or a master, pretty much. And so our final example is Ka Tuo Ka Te Tuo. And that means where are you from? So we have our subject, we have our verb. Oh, I forgot to explain that Nyo can also be used as well, not in this certain situation. You can use Nyo to ask where a person is from, but generally the question is Tuo Ka Te Tuo, so you can also use Tuo when referring to the word Ka Te. And so that would mean where are you from? And the answer would be Ku Tuo Tai Te Tuo, which means I come from Thailand. And so that's another one of the ways you can ask a question.
nhớ rồi
nhớ rồi cấp của nhớ rồi
cứ nhớ rồi mà con này
cũng nhớ rồi thế
rồi có luôn bề huli chả
cũng luôn biết hồ bao giờ có luôn này
cứ luôn bề hồ yam có những phong sẽ chỉ
cái phong sinh vợ
rồi
cái này cái phong sinh nhất chi
bây giờ phong sẽ ya
mong ya ba mong ya mà nhưng ok thế mà
bây giờ
hai cha
bây giờ cái này có bộ hậu lử
của thế mà
bây giờ rồi cô chị hậu lử
đó cái đó chi
cô chị chua ở đó chị
tức là cấp bộ một cần đỡ là
cũng một cần đỡ mà
ok thì tại sao nó có cái đó chi
cô cái electrical engineering con này có một cần đỡ
một thế mà
bây giờ
engineering nhỏ ya
engineering electrical engineering nhiều hàng mà
nhỏ rong mà
mà nó có một ở đó chứ
mà cũng muốn nó trong trong sự
bây giờ rồi con đó lên từ mùng
của yon đó của trên hình một sự
rồi
rồi sẽ tận chỉ có
nha rồi xin chỉ có thế
xin chỉ đó
xin chỉ đó